Hello, it's been a while I recorded my first introduction video to Cavalry 1.2, and right now we're on version 1.5 and lots of things has been changed in Cavalry. Today we're gonna look into some specific topic around multipoint gradients. We'll use multipoint gradients for a distortion raster effect and we'll distort the typography. So let's jump into Cavalry and see how we can achieve it. So just a quick preview on what we'll create today. We'll create two compositions and two motion designs. One of them is pretty much the replication of my titles in the beginning of this video, which sort of uses a technique of moving dots and a fill area, which is a multi-point gradient, as you see here, and everything is just dynamically adapts here. And you see some outlines here that moving the dots, they're moving the fill, and so on and so forth. But what actually is cool here is that while these guys are moving here all quite independently, we still can position them with these rings I've created. And still, if you have like a different title here, you can adapt this effect to anything that you have. And the second effect that we'll create uses multipoint gradient to distort the typeface. So we'll create this kind of wobbly, swirly type distortion effect, and also we'll use outlines to create this illusion of the depth. So let's jump into the creation of the first composition, but just for now we'll start with some basics on multipoint gradients, what they are and what we can do with them. So first of all, let's start with the basic things. We create a simple composition where the multipoint gradient shader will tweak it a bit and see what freedom we'll have in order to achieve a certain result. Let me add an empty composition. Let's call it multipoint basics. Let's hover in a layer editor, hit command dot, and type background shape. We added a background shape which consumes the space of the composition, its width and height all the time. It's a very convenient way of creating background fields which consumes the whole composition area. I use it all the time. Let's go into the fill in attribute editor for a background shape. I hit here and we add from the drop down menu multipoint gradient shader. Right now, multipoint gradient shader being added to our background shape, and we see two dots being added here with a 0 index and with a 1 index, which is essentially an array of colors and their position, their influence, and their jitter. On a canvas, we can control certain parameters of these dots. If we hold shift, we increase or decrease the influence of a certain selected dot. So for number 1, we have an influence of 4 or 5 right now, which is quite huge, as you see. If we select 0 and with the shift, we can increase or decrease its influence too. What else can we do? By holding command or control, we can add a jitter. So it creates some noise effect in the area of the selected point. As you see, we have a jitter here. It can be used for creating certain effects, especially on shapes, and this creates some sort of a texture for a shape, which is quite useful. Let's equalize our dots and see what we can do else here. First things that came to my mind when I first saw this was, let's write the position of these dots by noise. So we had the behavior here, we had the noise for white dot, and we add noise for a black dot. Let's put some random parameters here. Let's make him loop, and if we press space, we see that playback starts and our dot started to move. Let's do for the black one. Let's make it more freedom. We create again a looping noise here that drives the position of the multipoint. And right now they started to dance. What we did pretty much, we drive the, for example, the black noise. You see the result of it drives the X and Y coordinates of the black dot. And that's why it started to dance. We also can dynamically change another parameters of these multipoints. We can drive influence. Let's do this quickly. So we add another noise for a white influence. Let's call it white infl. Let's also put it down into multipoint gradient shader, so we maintain a hierarchy here. And let's make it like from 1 to, let's say, 4. Make it loopable. And let's decrease the frequency. So right now, as you see, white influence is quite high. Let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. Maybe even smaller. So you see it sort of like decreases in its size, but it's just basically the parameter influence driven by noise. What also can we do? Let's remove all noises. Let's zero out the parameters of dots, make them equal, spread them out. How we can control these dots manually? Surely enough, the nulls. Let's add a null for black dot. Make it circle, make it something like bluish, and increase the size. So this is null, just the full freedom. Let's attach the position of this null to the black position. This is our black, this is here, and this is here. So we just basically hold the property and create a link here, and for Y too. And right now our for some reason I can't select it. That's because I think it's inside the hierarchy. Yeah, there you go. So right now, if I move the null, the gradient, multipoint gradient dot number 1 also changes its position, as you see. And that is quite flexible, actually. But we can push it even further. So let's detach our null from the black dot. And let's add, for the black dot, a mathematical utility called Math2. It means that math xy, actually. So what we will do, we will essentially grab the position of null, this one, and add a noise to it, noise, and that is our math utility will do. So we have a position of a null, we have a noise that changes xy and add it to the coordinate of the null, and we get a new kind of coordinate of the null, and this coordinate will drive our multipoint dot here. So let's do this. So we go into multipoint gradient, we add the math here. As you see, we need for the first part of expression a null position. So we just drag from the null itself, we drive it here, drive it here. So right now, if we move null, yeah, black dot moves too. And for the second one, let's put a noise. There you go. And let's maybe do minus 100 and 100. So mathematically, this noise generates at every single frame new value, as you see. And it's added to the position of a null, which you can still control. That's why the dot will dance somewhere around this area. As you see, it's here. So if we imagine like there is a rectangle around null. This is like the rectangle of a noise, which is like our coordinates here. So 100 minus 100, and the dot gives its position somewhere here, but it's added to the position of the null itself. So that's why it can't go somewhere here, and we still maintain this control. So again, as you see, dances here. Let's increase the noise so it becomes more visible. See, it's somewhere here in an angle. Oh, it's somewhere here in the angle. Oh, it jumps because it's not looped. So yeah, right now it's looped. And for example, on a website, you can create a certain effect that you have a typography here and you just need some glowing effect around this area. But you know, you will need some control of it. And this technique, you have control of positioning this point of a gradient quite in easy way, I would say. So right now, let's jump in to a more complex setup that I have for my titles. So let's try to do a more complex setup with something like that. As you might see, there are three major parts here in this setup. Number one, we have like dots created here, all with unique color, and we have this kind of region, as you see, which connects dots together, and we have a gradient, multipoint gradient. As you see, there are 6 colors here, and all of them respects the dot color. As you see, bluish here, reddish here, greenish here, yellowish here, pinkish here, and purplish here. So basically, we'll approach it in a 3-step process. So I created a titles composition and put a background shape here. Let's call it BG. If you want the scene palette, so the ability to drag and connect your palette to a color, for example, of a background color like here, you just go here, load from library, and pick a library that you have. I have like my own library that I heavily used across some media. Is just, you know, it just grabs all of these colors and put it here, so I can use them as my palette colors. So we have a background, nothing else, pretty boring. Let's do some basic shape. So I've added a circle or ellipse. Let's make it 25 by 25, very small, and we'll have a certain amount of these dots. They are all multicolored, so maybe something is changed. We need to try different colors, and we can do this by using a color array. So I hit command dot and use a color array. Add it here. You see, we pretty much have like an array of colors, and we can link them up. Number 2, let's go blue. Number 3, let's go tomato. Number 4, let's go purple. Number 5, let's go. Sure, it's hard to pick something. Yeah, and for that one, let's go some yellow. Yeah, we have 6 colors here. And the first one will drive our basic shape fill. Let's call it dot 0 base. So if we multi-select them, by holding command you can multi-select. So we grab number 0 color and put it here. Yeah, our circle right now is green and respects our colors. So let's add a stroke, make it 5 and make it bluish. So nothing fancy pretty much, but right now we'll do a trick number 1. There is a specific shape in Cavalry called custom shape, which I heavily use. Then I need some clones, but not clones in terms of like a duplicator or something like procedural duplicator or more graphy stuff, but they just need like an instance of something else. So I use a custom shape in that sense. And as you might see, there is a input shape field here, and we can connect our dot base into here. And immediately here we instanced our dot 0 here. So now this is number 0, this is number 1, which is like custom shape. So it just got instanced here. So let's call it dot _1. Yeah. And if I change something in the dot 0 base, my clone respects that and do pretty much the same. So let's make it 25. Oops, let's look it. Yeah. But while it's an instance, it might have different style, which we will do right now. We'll use another field here. We just grab it from our array number 1 and put it here. And as you see, it's instance, but it has different style, which is quite nice. So let's add 4 more dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's call it number 2. Just a quick cleanup here. Oop. I did something wrong. Yeah. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. And number 5. So we have like 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, dots. They're all bluish, pretty much instances here. So these are all custom shapes, and this is our dot 0 base. So we need to change colors for them. For dot number 2, let's be sure that we pick the right index here, just to be kind of organized. We replace connection. Again, for number 3, noodle here, replace connection. For number 4, we grab number 4 color, replace connection. And for number 5, we pick number 5 and replace number 5 color. So they all right now has different colors, while they still respects the core shape or the source shape. Right now, let's try to connect them all together. So there is a specific shape in Cavalry for that. It's called points to path. So if we add it, as you see, we have some Bezier curve, which is nice and neat. It's based on 4 points, and you can drag points which is quite beautiful. And this is essentially an array of 4 dots with XY position. But, and you might guess, like, what should we do? How we can connect our dots positions with these curves to make them connected? Of course, we can sort of like pick dot 0 base, grab its position, and put it like here. But in that sense, we will not be 100% procedural, because we'll depend on this kind of add and delete mechanics here, which is super tedious to connect every single time if, for example, the number of points, a number of dots changed. But for the points to path, we have a point source here. And what is cool about it is that we can pick here as sub mesh. So submesh is a core thing in a Cavalry. Basically, if you have like something, basically Cavalry understands the contents of the shapes, or compound shapes so called. So you can address them by indices in Cavalry, which is super cool, and modify them on sort of like a submesh level. And I'll show you how we can connect all of our circles here with the points to path just in a sec. So as you see, there is a submesh here, but we need somehow combine all of our dots all together. So we can use this combined shape into a points to path here, and basically points to path will understand that we are on a submesh level and connect them with the points to path algorithm. How we can do this? Basically, we need another custom shape for that. So we need so we fire up custom shape. We call it all dots. But as you see, we have only a single input connection for input shape. So basically, we can just input dot 1, but that doesn't make any sense for us. They need just all dots all together. But if we group them, like all dots, let's call this dots simply. If we just connect a dots group with the all dots, with the all dots input shape here, you will see that all dots being created. You see, it's just they sort of like merged all together into a custom shape. Let's reset its position, and we hide it and we lock it. So this is our basic dots, right? Our initial dots. So we pick them and we see that we can move them. So right now we will put all dots, which is a merged shape of everything, with the submeshes here, into a points to path, into a points to path submesh input shape. Boom. And you see, this is a Bezier curve. We don't need it. We uncheck it and close it. So you see, they're all right now connected. Let's and they connected by means of this kind of custom shape technique. We hide it, we lock it. We don't want to change something there. We put dots upper in hierarchy, and let's just correctly position them. Oop, it looks like a puzzle game. So yeah, right now they're all connected. But and we are quite procedural here. So what does it mean? If we go into our dots group This is our core dots. And if we add something else, for example, numbers 6, which is 7 in our case, and we move it, you see. So this dot, because it's in a group, sort of like added to our all dots custom shape as a submesh, number 6 here, and points to path actually understands this and add it to the algorithm of connecting points. So that is technique number 2, which is kind of based on the technique number 1 of instancing a basic dot. So you see, right now let's delete number 6. Yeah, and we're good. Let me reposition them. Right now we need to fill it with them multipoint gradient. So let's go and call it area point to points to curve. So if we go here and fill it, everything's kind of look okay. We had multi-gradient point shader, and as you might see, in a multi-gradient shader, multi-point gradient shader, we don't have here like an like we do have in a like we do have like a point source in a points to curve shape. We don't have such kind of a drop-down list. We are still quite not super procedural here because we have like a fixed number of points, unfortunately, up just like in a version 1.5. But that's we can deal with it. We have like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dots. So number 0. Oops. You see, we have like 6 dots here. So let's just, what should we do? We basically need to connect our colors. With the respective index of the point for the multipoint gradient. So we just grab 0, put it here, grab 1 here, number 2 here, number 3, oops, sorry, number 3 is over where, 4, and number 5. All dots connected. Right now we need to somehow position it here, and this one should be here. You see, yeah, we need somehow to procedurally put them in the respective corner, and for that we'll need the positions. That's quite easy actually. So to get multi-gradient points positions, we just basically need to grab them from our dots one by one. Unfortunately, there is no kind of completely procedural way of doing this. I'm talking about proceduralism too much. So we'll grab dot 0 position and put it here. Yeah, it's here right now, as you see. So if we move it, yeah, gradient follows. Oops. So for number 1, we'll go with number 1 color. We'll go with the position of dot 1 and write the position of point number 1 in a multipoint gradient. Boom. The same will do for every single dot. And there you go. Right now our multipoint gradient completely respects our dots colors and their positions. So right now we'll use a technique that I shown in the beginning. We will drive the position of every single circle here with a bit of a noise and its current position through some mathematical utility. So we'll go into dot number 1 and we pick a position here. We add a behavior, we add a utility called Math2. Put it here, and we just need its number 1, its current position, and add a bit of a noise for it. We even pretty much will not use any nulls here. There is, oh well, we don't need a null, sorry. Yeah, I think we need a null because, yeah, we don't need. Let me check. Let's go and add the behavior and the noise. So noise drives a second value. We'll add some loop noise here. So yeah, let's play back it. As you see, goes nice. So yeah, and as you see, I can't move it. I can't move it because the position is completely driven by this mathematical expression. It's sort of like locked, and but we can do this in a smarter way. Actually, we will for the math number this value here, we will use a null. So let's go with null. This will be a null. Let's go null dot 0. Okay, null dot 0, and we drive its position. It's in the center right now, as you see. I make it larger, like so. We will use the position of a null as the first value of a mathematical add expression here. So we have a null position and we'll just put it here. You see, our dot jumps to the null, but it's sort of shifted in a position because we have a noise as a second value of adding here. Pretty much the same as we have here. So it dances around the null with a noise. So right now I can move it here and it will respect but dance around my null, which is super useful for that kind of a setup. And right now I speed up a video because I'll do every this thing for every single dot here. So that's it. I've added nulls to every single dot, and right now we have everything set up. And right now, if we hit playback, they started to dance. So we can lock everything, lock, and just group our nulls. And we can control our dots with the nulls here if we need. So that's very cool. So the next step, let's create this kind of a ripple effect around this area. We will use a duplicator for that. So let's just use this area PTC that we have as our points to curves shape as a source for duplicator. And as you see, we don't need this fill actually. So we need another custom shape, same technique here, and we still basically will copy our area PTC into custom shape. So let's do it. So right now we have like 2 of them. And this will rename into Duplicator source area. And we just need to make it transparent. Let's check. Yeah, as you see, it's completely transparent right now. And we'll use a duplicator for it. Boom. So as you see, duplicator, just create a grid of it. Oop. And we'll use a point as a distribution. So they're all kind of starting from one single point. And as you see, it's something not what we want. So for the duplicator source area, let's do a path offset deformer. Basically what it does, it offsets a path outside or inside. And we drive this offset with the stagger behavior. So it's like a stepper. So we'll have something like that hierarchy here. Duplicator, source path that has path offset, and the path offset is staggered with our stagger behavior. And we just make it like 50. And see, we have a point, and if we keep adding, they sort of like added based on a point, they started to offset. But the position is a bit of problematic here. And how we can solve this, because this kind of effect is slightly different here. So we just need to tweak noises for every single dot that we have. The problem is there. So if I go into noise for dot 0, you see that there is a stagger here. And if I remove it, it's sort of okay right now. So let's do this for every single dot. Remove the staggering. We remove the staggering here. We remove the staggering here. For number 4. And the last one, number 5. And right now, they look okay. Let's collapse them. Go to our duplicator source area stagger. And you see, if we go outside, we'll have this effect. It's a bit of a laggy, because of the amount of, I think, dots and the movement. But, you know, you can decrease the amount of duplicates here, like for 10, and that works well. For duplicator shape opacity, we'll use the same technique as for the offset. So we'll go into shape opacity, add behavior, stagger, and the stagger will control and gradually like make our lines disappear. So it goes from 0 opacity to 100. You see, which is closest gets opacity 0, and it pushes outside index per index and increases its opacity. But with the graph, we can invert it easily. So right now they go from 100 up to 0. So yeah, and we need duplicator go below dots. And right now, as you see, there is some nice effect here. You can push it even further. You can resample paths. You can bevel them, for example. You can do it like so, because we have a custom shape as a duplicator source. We can use like some behavior here, like a bevel. Yeah, you see they are starting to look a bit of smoother on the angles, and we can use the same behavior for our main area here, which is I think here. And if we grab our bevel here and go here, yeah, you see it's starting to look pretty neat. And the last piece I want to show is just a simple extrusion of a typeface that I've did. Nothing fancy here. Just quickly. T, drag. Let's go with Cavalry is the best tool ever. And we just make it auto. Left, we make it huge. We add some bulky typeface here. Make it black. Drive the fill with some white color. Go inside the shape. Make it something like that. Decrease the line spacing a bit. I think it's too huge. And put it above everything. As you see, we get some stroke. For the stroke, we use fill. Yeah, and that's it. So right now, for this type text shape, we'll add extrusion from here. So there you go. For the extrusion fill, we'll use the color of the border here, of the stroke. So, and we just make it like minus 30. Okay, and see, yep, and let's just make them dance a bit. So we'll drive the extrude distance here, leave some noise. Let's do it like noise, and make it from like 25 to 75 in a loop of 0.2. Yeah, let's look on it. They move all the same at the same time, right? That's because on extrusion we have a level mode, and we can pick a characters here. You see the difference? They start, they right now treated as a submeshes, and they start to have a different depth, extrusion distance. And we can of course do some cool shit here, make them like so. I also find that if I, for extrusion, if I check combine meshes, it's starting to be very slow, but if I uncheck it, it's the FPS just grows a bit. But that's not here in that case. Maybe I'm wrong, sorry. But yeah, that's the effect number one. So right now let's approach the second effect, the creation of this kind of a depth illusion and with the distortion of the typeface by multipoint gradient. So as you might see, there is some distortion going here and there. We have a path offset here, which is gradually from opacity 100 goes to 0. On the shape, we have some shadow effects and vignetting across the background, across like background. So let's approach this in a new composition. I'll jump to the new one. Let's call it type distort, and we use a background shape, and I will speed up a bit. We add a fill, rename it to BG. Let's call it Cavalry. Cavalry. Right now. Yeah, position it in the center. Make it super huge. Yeah, centrally. Oh, sorry. And make it with some clunky, bulky typeface. I left this retro one called MD Nichrome, and I add some fill color and increase the shape. So, as you see, nothing fancy here. we need to distort it, and we will distort it with some filter or some raster effect pretty much. I think it rasterizes your shape on the fly to some image, and we can use a distortion here. As you see, distortion be added for the text here, and we'll see there is a second tab here, this one called shader. If we click on it, you'll see that noise shader pretty much drives the distortion effect here with different parameters, different amplitude, and so on. But if you click on this drop-down input shader, you'll see there is our hero here, multi-point gradient shader. If you click on it, you'll see that our text got distorted by, I think, 2 points of a multi-point gradient. But we don't have too much of the control here, I suppose. Because it's sort of like a built-in into the shader. But we can use our own multi-point gradient shader, which is be much more procedural. Multi-point gradient shader, we add it here. This is our multi-point gradients, pretty much the same as was created for distortion. So, but here in a shader, we'll not use multi-point gradient shader, we'll use blend shader. And for the blend shader, we'll have a stack of shaders which can be blended, but we'll use on a single one, multi-point gradient shader. We add it here, and there you go. We have a multi-point gradient shader that we can reuse in variety of ways across our setup, because it's not built into distortion. So right now we'll drive the position of our points in a multi-point gradient shader with the noises, noise per point, 1, 2. Yep, and let's just make them loopable with some frequencies, and let's make them unique in terms of their max-min values. So, and right now we'll do have some distortion of Cavalry. Sorry, Cavalry. And we increase the padding. You see there is some trim line across this effect, but if we increase it enough, we'll see some bulky distortion effect here. To make it slightly smaller, we can decrease or increase the value. The influence here, as you see, we can even create some kind of a fluid effect with certain amount of tweaks, which is nice. I haven't created an approach like that. But yeah, this is our distorted Cavalry. Let's proceed to the next step, and we'll add some path offset to it and just duplicate it. So let's duplicate the text. Hit duplicate. Duplicator added in the default read. We'll use point, and for the input shape, for the point, for the input shape we'll have 3 copies of our text, and you don't see any difference here. That's totally correct. Right now for text, we'll remove fill, we add stroke, make it 5, and make it white stroke, as you see. And we'll use for the text path offset behavior, the same as we have in the first setup, path offset. And for the offset amount, we'll use a stagger here. And as you see, stagger got added to path offset. And right now, you can control the offset here. We can increase the duplicator copies to create more lines here. As you see, what can we do else? Of course, we can gradually kind of decrease the opacity from 100 to 0, offset per offset. So we'll use another stagger here for the duplicator right now, which goes from 0 to 100, but we reverse it. Yeah, there you go. And I think another I think we can actually make a stroke slightly bolder than they are like in front of us, and thinner than they are going into the deeply kind of from us, far from us. So let's drive the width, the stagger too. So yeah. So yeah, stagger, it's like, let's count 8 and just reverse it. 8, I think it's too much. Yeah, there you go. So right now, let's maybe use something bolder. Maybe add some duplicates here. So you have full freedom of tweaking this out actually. We can control the offset here. And the width. And the opacity. So yeah, there you go. I also want to create kind of a drop shadow effect for the overall distorted type, and we'll use our beloved technique with the custom shape. I add it here, and I put a text into it. It should work, and we redefine a fill. Just make it completely invisible. Yeah. And we just add a drop shadow filter. It seems like not working properly, but we can cheat here and use a fill as a background fill, and drop shadow here. We will use, we will make it like so. Yeah. Let's go like this. We can use some orange color here. Oops. Detach it. Like so. And right now we have like custom shape, which is an instance of the text with only effects being applied, and we have like this path offsetted variant of the text. Should not quite like actually, but again, you have numerous ways of how to kind of tweak it a bit, because it's completely procedural. You can change the text here, like mother. Yeah, and you see there are some artifacts. You need to tweak it a bit of again, like so. Let's call it depth. Yeah, as you see, there is some artifact here. I think that's because of this incorrect stagger offset. There you go. And what else can we do here? Probably I forget something, but I think we're good. Yeah, I also added a thing in my original video, bevel deformer. So it makes my shape way smoother. You see, it's like, it's actually quite nice looking. Yeah. Something like that. And we can, of course, use some background shape, I think. Add some vignette. And yeah. And we can use some orange tints here to make it look a bit of a sexy, I would say. So there you go. Again, if you remove Duplicator, it moves a bit faster, but in my machine it's quite laggy. Raster effects are expensive, as you might assume, but anyway, that's the effect number 2. And that's it. Basically, we created the two effects with the multipoint gradient shader inside each of them. We used a couple of tricks with procedural setups and custom shapes as an instancers. So see you later. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, like, and bye-bye.